Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pizzapia, and filling in today, the glorious one, Pat Fitzmaurice. Scott Bogman, not here today. He will be back next week for Monday and Thursday going forward, rest of the season. How lucky are we? We're very lucky to have Pat Fitzmaurice joining us today, breaking down the Thursday night football slate. And what a one-sided affair it's stacking up to be. We're going to take you through the props, take you through some of the best bets, and take you through the game the way we see it from a betting perspective. And let me just set the stage for you, Pat Fitzmaurice, if I may. Aaron Donald is out. Matthew Stafford is out. Cooper Kupp is out. Allen Robinson is out. I am out on the Los Angeles Rams. In fact, John Wolford, the quarterback tonight, could be a game-time decision. There's a possibility we could see Baker Mayfield, who has been with the Los Angeles Rams for all of, 48, 72 hours. How many hours is it? Pat, as we look ahead to the game tonight, there is certainly a one-sided situation, yet this game is only a 6.5 point spread. Let's start there. What do you make of that number as we head into tonight's action?
Oh, that it seems too low, Joe. How can you not like the Raiders here? And I know it feels like I'm walking into a bear trap here. But there's not a big home field advantage for the Rams here. I'm sure there's not a lot of enthusiasm on the Rams side with the way this season has gone just completely sideways for them. And like you said, Baker Mayfield with, mere hours to try to assimilate the playbook. If indeed he has to play, they're going to try to see if John Wolford can make it through warmups and play. But man, if he doesn't, what is this Rams offense going to look like? I have a hard time seeing the Rams hanging around in this one.
The fantasy Loki in me desperately wants to see Baker Mayfield because I love chaos. I think it would just be a fun thing. But that's the thing I keep going back to also. The line seems small. I don't want to give the Raiders too much credit, but the Raiders have won a couple games here. They've been kind of the cardiac kids. They've been going to overtimes. They've been somehow finding ways to get it done after not finding ways to win earlier in the season. 6.5 seems like the side that I want to be in. I feel like this is more comfortable, and that's what scares me. It seems so comfortable. I almost don't want to trust it. I don't know why, but this is the first time in a while here on the stream between Monday and Thursday Night Football that I have liked a line and felt comfortable, especially with a number this big at the 6.5 on the Raiders side. And am I wrong? It feels dirty to me, Pat. It just feels weird.
I know, Joe. And remember a month ago when I can't even remember which Raiders loss it was after, but they had the press conference afterwards, and Derek Carr and Devontae Adams were talking about how maybe not everyone in the locker room had bought in to,
yes.
Yeah. And it just seemed like they were about to totally come off the rails. And I bet against the Raiders the next 2 weeks, and I think they won both of those games. They've actually managed to circle the wagons, and they're playing terrific on offense right now. And their defense has actually been better too.
Yeah, Jacob certainly has had some huge games, as has Devontae Adams, just absolutely incredible the last few weeks. So we're going to continue on here as we look at the numbers again. 6.5 is the spread. I'm on the Vegas side. Pat is too. We both have an eerie feeling about it, but this game could get really, really ugly. I think potentially, especially if we are downgrading a quarterback, because the mistakes of Baker Mayfield, should he end up playing in this game, I think are going to be too much of a deficit here. We're talking about defensive scores potentially, and that is where you could basically just lock in a spread this big. You have that one defensive score in there, that's basically it. So if the Raiders can just play mistake-free football tonight, they should cruise in this one. 42 is the over-under, Pat. I don't care for that number at all. I want nothing to do with this one. I would assume under because I don't have any faith in the Rams offense. But once again, this one to me is one where I'm just kind of backing off. I'll go to the 6.5. I'm running away from the money line. What do you make of the 42 here that we're getting on the consensus on Betting Pros?
I'm with you, Joe. I don't see a lot of value here. If I were to bet it, I would bet the under because like you, I just don't think the Rams are going to do enough to push this one over the total. But I do think the Raiders are going to score some points. So not really inclined to bet it. And by the way, on that number, if you can get it at 6.5, don't you feel like as people get home from work and look at this, don't you feel like there's going to be a lot of late money pouring in on the Raiders and maybe pushing it to 7 or above? And you can get it before it gets to that key number of 7. I think that's a good time to jump on it.
Pat, I think it's going to go to 7 for sure. And as we get closer, and then the Mayfield, who knows if that ends up being the news? This could. I mean, I don't see how a guy can come in 3 days, pick up the playbook for a team that has no offensive weapons, and somehow do anything. Like this is just go. And it's not that the Raiders necessarily have to be great, but this could be a 20-3 kind of a game. Like this could be a game that it's not even. It's almost lackluster, but dominant from one side. And it's great to see everybody in the chat today. Again, apologies for starting a little late today. We had some things to take care of, but we are here for you as always. So we see you guys. Kyle, I see you in the chat. I see Prodigy in there calling me the tribal chief. That's right, Prodigy. I am. And thanks, Andrew Erickson, Truther, and Prodigy for the well wishes for my dad. I appreciate you guys. So I love this. Look at it. The people giving back, Pat. It's a beautiful thing. Let's get to some of the props tonight. And Pat Fitzmaurice has put together some lovely props for you guys. So let's start with his favorite. Let's start with Derek Carr and the over 249.5 passing yards. Let's start with that one. Do the Raiders and Derek Carr have to push the ball even to that extent? Or is this just a matter of, hey, they can, maybe this is a game where you should, and start putting some hurting on some teams and get some confidence rolling into the stretch?
Yeah, I guess the one fear I have with any over involving passing props on the Raiders is that maybe they do decide to take the foot off the gas pedal if they've got a lead in the second half. But at the same time, I don't trust this Rams offense to be able to hold the ball. So I think the Raiders are going to get plenty of offensive plays tonight. And, I just think they're going to control the ball, control the clock, control the time of possession, and just run a lot of plays and probably roll up a lot of yardage.
Yeah, right now I see that number at 250 over on FanDuel. So if you can find it in the bigger numbers, maybe you start to shade the under there. 244.5 is a projection that we have over on BP. He's also got rushing yards, Derek Carr, which we love the small numbers. Bogman and I always run to these when we see like 1.5 rushing yards. We lock in these stupid little ones. But not touching this one today, not with Derek Carr. Like he doesn't go anywhere. So he's not the guy there. Because even looking at the game log, you got a lot of zeros. And most quarterbacks don't even have the zeros, but Derek Carr does. Let's get to the next one here. Passing touchdowns. Now this one I love here. 1.5 is the over here that Pat is on for Derek Carr. Him and Devontae Adams have been fantastic. We can see Mac Hollins work in a bit as well. That seems to make a lot of sense here. And who knows, maybe Foster Moreau catches a touchdown pass as well. Certainly those guys are all in play. So Pat, let's talk about this number and your confidence in tying it in to the passing yard over that you also like.
Yeah, it's been a really nice 5-game run for Derek Carr. So he's gone over that. He's been at least 248 passing yards in 5 straight. And he's thrown multiple touchdown passes in 5 straight. So kind of playing the hot hand here. I think, he's going to get multiple touchdowns tonight. I'm pretty confident in that one. It's minus 125 last I checked on that. So you're paying a little bit of extra with the juice, but I'm pretty confident in Carr's in the likelihood of him throwing multiple touchdown passes tonight.
Since week 9, Derek Carr has thrown 2 or more touchdowns in every single game. That is a heck of a stretch, Pat. I think this is my favorite one. This is the lock of the night. Everybody knows I always poo-poo on the parlays. I'm the parlay poo-pooer. That is my nickname around these parts. But if you're going to start to build one tonight, this one makes a lot of sense. You build with here, the 1.5 on the over here on the passing touchdowns. Then you take another simple 1 or 2 things. That's it. Limit it to 3. The more exposure you have, the more chance you have to lose your money, not make it. So just be careful there, or just make one big wager on the 1.5 passing touchdowns. That's the approach. We like to talk about the approach here on the program to the betting, not just throwing numbers at you guys, because I know it's still new for a lot of people, and that's okay. It just got legal in a lot of places like Ohio, and that's okay, everybody. Shout out to everybody in Ohio. Let's talk about another one here. You have Kyren Williams, 26.5 rushing yards. You are on the under. And I can understand why. There's a lot of variables here, plus some guy named Cam Akers who all of a sudden looked like he was the guy who was getting it done. So what do you think about Kyren Williams and why this number might be so high?
Well, we saw in week 13, Joe, a lot of teams sort of upended their established usage patterns at running back. And the Rams were one of those teams. We had seen kind of a 50-50 type split between Akers and Kyren Williams. Last week, it was pretty much all Akers. And it seems like that's sort of the way they want to go. And I understand it. Like Kyren Williams, I don't know. I had issues with him as a prospect because he's like undersized and really slow for being an undersized guy. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
a guy of his size, you want to be running like a 4.4, 4.45, not a 4.7 or 4.8 or whatever he ran at the combine.
Small
Like,
and slow, typically not the running back profile we're looking for out of the draft.
yeah, that's not really the formula for success for NFL running back. So, just that they really dialed down his usage in week 13. I don't know if we can trust the usage patterns with the Rams, but I think you have a chance to hit the under, even if they do go back to a 50-50 here. But in week 13, it was not a 50-50. It was really tilted in Cam Akers' favor. And so, if Kyron only gets like 5 or 6 carries, he's not hitting this number.
All right, we'll get to Cam Akers, Josh Jacobs, and some more of that a little later in the show. I want to keep going with the ones that Pat has earmarked for all you guys and girls out there today. Let's go to Devontae Adams, over 88.5 receiving yards. This one is another one that you have highlighted today. Devontae Adams has been just crushing it of late. And look, he is the main target. He's hard to stop. There's no doubt about it. The target volume has been enormous. Just to run through the yardage totals since week 9, since that run of Derek Carr we were talking about, 146, 126, 141, 74, 177. That's not bad. A minimum of 7 catches in each of those games too, Pat.
Yeah, he's been, over this total in 4 of his last 5 games, and he's been over 126 yards in 4 of his last 5. He's the best receiver in the league, Joe. I'm like totally convinced of it. And maybe this number is sort of reduced because of the Jalen Ramsey factor, but and this goes back to the overs on the Derek Carr passing numbers too. Like the Rams used to be this skull and crossbones matchup for passing numbers. That's gone. And I think maybe there's some sort of residual effect on where these totals are, that people still think the Rams are a fearsome pass defense. They're 27th in DVOA against the pass this year.
Yeah.
This is
and
not
Ramsey's
a good.
not the same guy. And Ramsey's been
not.
getting up big plays too this year, even from week 1 on. He's beginning with the big plays. And I don't know about you, Pat, but I always say, and we say it here on the program quite a bit, when you have the really good corner, or even dare I say elite corner, I don't think Ramsey's quite elite anymore, but the really good corner, give me the really good wide receiver over the really good corner every time.
And DK Metcalf lit him up last week for over
Sure
100 yards. And I mean, like, as good as Devontae Adams has played, Joe, like if he was going up against peak Darrelle Revis, like what would
Sure.
you be, I'd be confident
last
betting
week
him
with
like
Justin
over
Jefferson
70.
and Sauce Gardner. Sauce has played so well. Everyone's a little afraid. Justin Jefferson went out and still Justin Jefferson. He's going. The elites are the elite for a reason. Adams is elite. And I think the other point we could probably make with this Rams defense, to be honest, how much are they on the field tonight? How much wear and tear are they taking in the short turnaround too? And where's the quit factor? And I know that sounds kind of like, just Debbie Downer, but I mean, what are the Rams playing for anymore? They're not playing for anything. And this could be a really tough game where you just kind of try to get through those 4 quarters and get out and just move on to the following week here, because things are not going in their direction. And that certainly does not make me feel good about the Rams defense. In fact, on FanDuel, I was telling Pat before the game, everybody, Bogman and I always trying to find either interception things we like, tackle totals. We've been amazing on some of these sacks. We've been crushing this the last couple of weeks. I can't find any right now on FanDuel. They are not up. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. It upsets me because it's my favorite thing. Boggs and I love to help make you money on the defensive end, but they're not even there. So keep checking back and maybe you'll get something. If so, look for Maxx Crosby tonight, please. For the love of God, look for Maxx Crosby to get a sack, because I think he's going to. Okay, just lock that in if you can find it anywhere. Let's go to Mac Hollins, 45.5 receiving yards. You're on the over on Mac as well. Is there enough of a need for Adams and Hollins to go over these numbers here for this offense? Or do you think you just get a lot more Josh Jacobs and just kind of, again, sitting on a lead because they don't have to push the football?
We might. I'm not quite as comfortable with this over as I am with the Devontae Adams over, Joe, but while Hunter Renfrow has been out, the 4 games he's missed with an oblique injury, Hollins has averaged, I believe, 7.2 or 7.3 targets a game. And he hasn't always necessarily cashed in, but, if he gets that sort of activity, if he's over 7 targets in this game, I really like his chances of clearing this number.
Yeah. One more here. Pat also has highlighted Tutu Atwell, which is not something I thought I would be saying in 2022, but here we are. It's week 14. Tutu Atwell, 2.5 receptions. You've got the over, which is funny because I'm all into the under on Van Jefferson at 3.5, even though the juice is a lot of FanDuel at -194. I'm in on this one because even when he had quarterbacks who knew who he was and where he was running in terms of routes. If we get Baker Mayfield tonight, somehow he hasn't caught more than 3 balls in a game all year, and you're getting that 3.5. You lock this in along with the other lock numbers that we gave you earlier, and that's your parlay. I mean, that's easy. But why Tutu Atwell over on the 2.5? Why do you think that's something you're interested in?
Yeah, it's funny, Joe. I mean, if you had given me before the season the over under on Tutu Atwell's receptions for the entire year at 2.5, I'm not sure I would have bet the over. But man, with what injuries have done to the Rams receiving room, it just seems like now not only are they missing Kupp and Allen Robinson, but Ben Skoranek is banged up. It just seems like they have to go somewhere with the ball. And I like Tutu's chances. I just hope that his targets are not all like, 20, 30, 40-yard fly patterns tonight, and that they, draw up some easier completions for either Wolford or Baker Mayfield. And, hopefully a couple little easy bubble screens or something to push him over this total. But you get this at plus 110, I believe. So that's kind of one of the reasons. If this was like a standard minus 115, I wouldn't be as interested. But, getting plus odds on this one, I kind of like it.
Anytime touchdown scores, you're getting minus 140 on Devontae Adams, same number on Josh Jacobs, plus 165 on Cam Akers. Look, I'm just not touching any Rams. I'm just not doing it in terms of touchdowns tonight. I think it's a hard sell, personally. Some interesting numbers. Foster Moreau plus 250. Love that number over on FanDuel. You've also got, if you really want to go a little bit deeper here, you think you might have some of Matt Collins at plus 270 also. So those are two guys that if you think, maybe you want to play around with that touchdown market a little bit. One of the things I want to touch on this game too, and it's the Josh Jacobs factor. Short week. He's had a huge workload, a lot of injuries. He's supposedly going to play tonight. He's still listed as questionable, but it seems like he's going to play. 85.5 rushing yards. Seems like a pretty big number here that they don't need him to do. What do you think about this one? Normally I see Josh Jacobs, I'm smashing the over. But this one I'm kind of leaning towards the under. I wanted to get your thoughts because our projections have him at 91 and a quarter. But at the same time, Pat, where's the need to press Josh Jacobs on a short week in this game? I just don't know if you get some more Zamir White or some other guys getting some reps tonight.
You might, and that's why this was not one of my favorite plays. I think he's going to finish somewhere near that number, and it's probably only going to take him 15, 16 carries to approach it. But exactly, like the short week, do we see another 30 carry game for Josh Jacobs? Probably not. This would be an opportune time to, mix in Zamir White, get Jacobs a little bit of rest. But then again, with Jacobs, I mean, he could approach this number with just a couple of big runs. So I'm just not comfortable really with either side of this one. I hear you. I think it might be a reduced workload tonight. And
I think it could be a 20 cap, and his number's at 20.5, and that's like right on there. So that's a big stay away from me too. I'm just not going to go that route. And I'll tell you the other thing too, we have crushed for weeks now the underdogs on these games, just betting them outright, whether it be the Commanders, whether it be the Carolina Panthers, the list goes on and on. We have been all over this. I can't get there tonight, everybody. I'm sorry. I've been saying it, stay away from all these things. Let's just bet the money line on the underdog at home in these spots. They tend to do well. Can't do it. Won't do it. Here's a great question from Sam Young. Do you guys like a half bet on the Raiders minus 3.5? It looks pretty juicy. What do you like at the Raiders up by 3.5 there?
Oh man, I'd rather just get full price on and lay the bigger number. I mean, I'm feeling good about them covering. I feel good about the bigger number spread, too. But to reduce my odds, I think I'd rather just go for the big blowout. To be honest,
yeah. Look, I think blowout is always a dangerous word. One-sided is the word I think that fits this game to me. Yeah, this isn't 35-10. I don't know if this is a glorious output necessarily for the Raiders tonight, but it feels more like a game that they're going to control. So look for the things that you can control here in this market, because I think that's something that's very important we need to talk about too. Again, some of those anytime touchdowns, Foster Moreau plus 250, Matt Collins plus 270. Things that, you might have some nice plus money on. If you want to have some fun, put small units on that, put bigger numbers on some of the things that Pat was talking about. In case you're just joining us too, real quick, just to recap them. Derek Carr, 249.5. He likes the over on the passing yards, the over on the Derek Carr touchdown total 1.5. That's my favorite one. That's my lock of the night. That's where I'm starting. You can just put a big unit on that one and walk away, or put it with like the Van Jefferson under receptions or some things like that. If you get Baker Mayfield, all bets are off here on this game. I just don't know how he knows the playbook, what's going on. And it doesn't necessarily mean everything's going to be good for Kyren Williams or good for Cam Akers. It doesn't mean that. All it means is you become one-dimensional, and that's not a good thing, because the one thing the Raiders have been able to do is get to the quarterback a little bit, and that is not a good thing for Baker Mayfield. Lots of turnovers. Again, look for the turnovers there. Defensive scoring galore. Devontae Adams, 88.5 receiving yards. We're over on that one. We're under on Kyren Williams. I'm lockstep there with Pat with 26.5 rushing yards. And those are some of the locks that we've got here. So again, lots of fun things here. And here's one. What do we have here? Sean's got a lot of feelings here in the chat. He likes the over in the 0.5 INT market with Carr. Is that a better bet? I don't think it is. I like the 1.5 touchdowns, to tell you the truth. Like, why try to scrape together that narrative when you can lock in something that looks pretty strong? And the track record for Carr here, again, since week 9, 2 touchdowns in every single game. This feels like an easy one, Pat. You're on mute, Pat.
Sorry about that, Joe. Yeah, Carr is not really a guy I ever really target for interception props. He's generally fairly careful with the ball. I could be wrong. And Sean points out.
Well, but you don't have Aaron Donald breathing down his neck, pressuring him either.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Very true. And, Sean points out that the Rams do have the better coach. I agree. But look, Sean McVay's covered his bear. Like, you cannot cook a delicious seafood gumbo with barnacles and seaweed. And that's what Sean McVay is trying to do right now.
There's no way to follow that, so I'm just going to end the show on that note. Everybody go out there, enjoy your Thursday night football. Don't forget, go to bettingpros.com, check out the prop bet cheat sheet. Subscribe to Betting Pros YouTube channel. We're here doing the live streams Monday, Thursday, on the weekends. We got bowl games coming up. We got all kinds of fun things going on in the football universe, and not to mention all the NFL playoffs still ahead of us. So subscribe to Betting Pros. We've got amazing content continuing to grow. I love that this show, we're up live watchers, a new record, back-to-back shows. I'm so excited that you're here. This is great. Love it. I thank Pat Fitzmaurice for joining me too on short notice in the last 24 hours. What a mensch. That's what they'd say in Brooklyn. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Pat Fitzmaurice, I'm Joey P. Enjoy Thursday Night Football, everybody. We'll see you later.